Super 3 and the Gloomy Cloud, written by Garth Newman and Yumna Sadan. Layla, Temba and George were enjoying being back at school. They had been at home for some time because of the scary invisible monster called coronavirus. They knew they could protect themselves by wearing their masks, washing their hands often, and keeping some distance between themselves in the classroom and on the playground. They were happy to be learning, talking to each other, and of course, playing their favorite game. Super 3. Yay! Hooray! One day, Temba didn't show up at school. When he returned the following day, he had a gloomy cloud hanging over him. Layla and George noticed that Temba looked sad. So they tried to cheer him up. George showed him some new magic tricks, and Layla drew him some funny pictures of her cat, Missy. But the gloomy cloud stayed, and Temba continued to look sad. It seemed to grow bigger and darker as days went by. Whenever Layla and George asked Temba why he looked so sad, he became annoyed, and the gloomy cloud would grow darker. Sometimes the cloud would get so big and dark that thunder and lightning would come shooting out of it. When this happened, Temba would snap at his two friends angrily. Even though he didn't mean to, his anger would shoot out like lightning bolts. Layla and George needed to come up with a plan. They decided to write Temba a letter, telling him that they cared about him and wanted to understand why a gloomy cloud was following him around. After reading the letter, Temba told Layla and George that he had overheard his parents saying that they were planning to move to another city. He would miss his two best friends terribly. Suddenly, the gloomy cloud burst into droplets, and Temba began to cry. The grey clouds gathered and covered the three friends. They all felt very sad. Layla felt the sadness in the pit of her stomach. She remembered the time her cat Missy disappeared for a few days and how much she cried. George felt the sadness in his chest. He remembered the time when his mom was sick and had to spend some time in hospital. No matter how hard he tried, his magic tricks couldn't make her feel any better. Feeling this heartache together, the three friends realized that they had all had gloomy clouds hanging over them before. It was normal to feel sad sometimes, especially when you're missing someone. They needed to find ways of keeping the gloomy cloud from staying for too long. Layla, Temba and George asked themselves, what would our superheroes do? Suddenly, the Super 3 had some amazing realizations. Gloomy clouds would come and go, and the friends might feel sad from time to time, but they each had ways to make them disappear faster. Layla was cat fantastic, and like any cat, she could get away from the gloomy cloud by finding a sunny spot where she felt warm and happy. Her spot of sunshine was painting, drawing, and hanging out with her two best friends. George was the amazing Mr. Tricks. Performing his magic tricks for others gave them joy. Whenever they smiled, he smiled too. Doing something kind for others could make the gloomy cloud disappear. Temba was the bricklayer. He realized that being brave meant speaking up. Talking about your sad feelings with loved ones could fight off the gloomy cloud. They also had a super secret weapon, loved ones to shelter them and stand by their side, no matter how gloomy the clouds became. Knowing that Temba would be moving to another city made all three friends feel sad, but through talking about their feelings, they were able to accept it. Layla, Temba, and George knew that no matter the distance and no matter how the world changed, friendships always remained. The end.